We are back. This is segment two, the YouTube New York City Visions, and we're with Parks and Recreation Commissioner Adrian Benepe. Adrian and I go back a little bit. I was only with Parks for a while, but you talk about quickly your history with Parks and Recreation. You're quite a New York story.
My history with Parks and Recreation goes back 37 years. I started as a seasonal park helper in East River Park in summer of 1973. Then I came back as a park ranger. It was supposed to be a seasonal job in the spring of 1979 when Gordon Davis was Parks Commissioner. I ended up staying around for a year and a half. Then I left, went and got a graduate degree in journalism, came back to the Parks Department, and that time I stayed for about 9 years. I worked with the park rangers for a year, then I did the press office under Commissioner Henry Stern for 2 years, then worked in operations. I was the director of natural resources and horticulture. I was the director of art and antiquities, in charge of statues and monuments and historic houses. Then I left again for 4 years, worked at the New York Botanical Garden and at the Municipal Art Society, and then I came back again as Manhattan Borough Commissioner under Mayor Giuliani and when Henry Stern came back as commissioner. And that's what I was doing when Mayor Bloomberg was elected, and he looked around, talked to a number of different people as possible parks commissioners, ended up putting me in the position. That's what I've been working on very happily for the last 10 and a half years.
Well, when we first met, I was media liaison. I was the first media liaison. Jim Dubs created the office for me, and then I had no real high school education, and I almost didn't qualify for the job I got. Then, of course, life experience got me the job. I don't know if you know the background, but that's how it was. But I started out as a volunteer doing PSAs, and then seasonal the 1986 United States Youth Games, was
Right.
that in 1996? Then I was offered the full-time position. But you were with Henry Stern at that point, and of course a lot has happened to you since then.
Right.
Talk for a moment about, I know in your opening remarks to introduce Leda Meredith, you were talking about there's a garden upstairs, a vegetable garden upstairs. Describe that.
Well,
Here at the Arsenal, by the way.
Here you were on the roof. We're in the Arsenal, which is a building that goes back to the 1840s. It was built as an arsenal to house the weapons and guns and ammunition of New York State. It was quickly realized they couldn't use it for that once they built a park around it. So it was decommissioned as an arsenal and then became the first home of the first Central Park Zoo, and then the first home of the Museum of Natural History, and then in 1934 the home of the New York City Parks Department, unified under Robert Moses, which it has been ever since. Recently we renovated the roof, starting under Henry Stern, and he said, let's make it useful, make it beautiful. So we've had flower gardens on the roof since Henry Stern was commissioner, and then when we renovated the roof recently, we added a lot more gardens and a green roof on part of it. And then some employees wanted to grow vegetables, so we have vegetables growing in tubs. We have some big planters with very lightweight earth in them, and employees use them to grow vegetables they can bring home and eat. And it's a very sunny, full sun location, so it's a great place for vegetables.
So the employees maintain it, and then they get to...
The employees maintain it, they get to eat their produce.
Do you eat any of that?
I do, yeah. In fact, usually I make sure I put some basil plants in so I can have basil all summer long. And the stuff grows great up there because it's full sun all day long.
Okay. A couple of things I remember about when I was with Parks and Recreation, of course, Strawberry Fields, the opening of Strawberry
Right.
Fields here, and it turns out I was the first person to walk through the Strawberry Fields. The park ranger, I got there in the morning, the park ranger was, opening up the gate, taking away the fence, rolling it back, and I thought he was going to step in, but he didn't. He stepped back, and I walked in, so I was the first person to Strawberry Fields. But the thing I remember most about you is I was at the Diana Ross concert.
Right.
And I was there for both nights, and the night it rained, that's the hardest rain I ever felt in my life. I'm sure you were in the park for that one.
I was there for that, the lightning and the rain and the storm, and then that ended the concert, and unfortunately we did a rain date the next day, which led to a lot of public disturbance after the concert. A lot of people got mugged. And
Really?
Oh yeah, the next night there was a big crime wave after the concert, which sort of marred the experience.
Wow, so that's what happened. Because I remember only a pocket, a knife came out. Diana Ross came out in a teddy, and she showed me your muscles and all that, and it kind of started a little something. But she was a trooper. She came out, and until it was called off, she was working in the rain.
I think it was a great performance she did that night. It would have been better if we probably had ended it that night. But
Yeah.
anyway, a lot of big things in the parks, a lot of great concerts, a lot of Central Park has really turned around since the 1970s. When we remember, it was not a great park. It was kind of dangerous, but
Right.
all the parks have turned around in a very nice way. And a lot of hard work by the men and the women who work for the Parks Department, and volunteers and people who write checks as philanthropists. And he put it all together, and the New York City park system has seen a big turnaround over the last 30 years. So a lot of hard work by various commissioners and the staff of the Parks Department, but particularly by the men and the women who work in the field, the gardeners and the maintenance workers, the heavy equipment operators, the trades workers.
What about the gentleman that was eating plants and he was stopped,
yeah,
and then he became an expert here?
Yeah, well, Wildman Steve Brill was leading his tours of how to eat wild plants in parks, and he got arrested by the park rangers because you're not supposed to pick and eat plants in the parks. And then he did a sort of stunt press conference on the steps of the courthouse and served a 5-borough salad. And then Henry Stern was talking to someone on the radio, and he said if he agrees to curb his appetite, we'll hire him as a tour guide.
Well, Seinfeld.
So we hired him as a tour guide, and it worked out for a while. But he was kind of a renegade. Didn't last all that long, and now he's back still doing his tours, being a renegade.
Seinfeld kind of did a thing on that, Uncle Leo, and he was, Jeffrey with the Parks Department in New York City. He takes him out on tours of local plants. So I guess that was a takeoff from.
Based a little bit on what
it was based on Steve Brill. Yeah, I guess. Okay, I mentioned Diana Ross because the next night when I came back, the first night I was out in the Great Lawn, about a mile away from the stage, but then I had a script with me. I was doing public service announcements for the Parks Department, and I came back to see you. And I showed you the script and you put me in the press section. And I had a great seat for Diana Ross the next night. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Matter of fact, you had me to take off my badge at the end of the night so nobody would grab it. You said, I had that sticky thing, and you said, please take it up because if somebody grabs it, they'll be able to get backstage. I guess those were the good old days.
Those are the good old days, but there's still the good old days in the parks. The parks
sure.
are looking better than ever. And,
okay, you have to go. Oh, that's right. You're kind of working overtime right now. Yep. Commissioner Adrian, what is your official title?
I'm Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, and Adrian Benepe, and it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Do you enjoy saying that?
I do, and I do enjoy it, but it's nothing I ever expected. I worked my way up. I'm the first guy to work his way up from the bottom of the Parks Department to the top.
You're a true New York story.
Well, I worked hard, but mostly I had a lot of great colleagues, and I got a chance to sort of work with a lot of great people over the years, and it's been a real pleasure.
Well, you're aging well. The difference now is you wear a good tie. I remember before. Sir, I thank you very much. It was good seeing you again. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to stop segment number 2. I did want to talk about the garden upstairs. We're going to shut down now this segment of our piece, and then we'll be back later on with Leda Meredith and a lady that's eating greens rather. She's really enjoying it. She's got bags of greens. Alina, she's a pharmacist, and I'll get her last name again. And okay, so again, you're listening to New York City Visions. I'm your host and fellow New Yorker, Herb Malsman. Our recording date today is Wednesday, June 6th, 2012. Again, happy birthday, Kimberly Beth Ann Olivia. Looking forward to seeing you soon. She's down in South Carolina. We are at the Arsenal in Central Park. We're going to shut down now, and we will be back on with you a little bit later. Let's shut down.